My wife, Diana, was always so distant. I'd long since resigned myself to the idea that we were nothing more than the most intimate of strangers. But I never imagined she had a completely different side to her, one she kept hidden away. She was secretly a romance author on a popular writing platform, and she was writing a story using our real names. Now, as I stared at her, words caught in my throat, the food in my mouth suddenly impossible to swallow. He's actually blushing looking at me. Diana's lips didn't move, yet the voice drifted right into my ears. Maybe tonight's chapter should be about my husband and me, and the things we could do on this dining table. Somebody save me. She had no idea that I had just developed the ability to read minds. Everyone in New York's high society knew that my marriage to Diana Sterling was a strategic merger, a union designed to secure the future of our two families. I had been fully prepared for a marriage where we'd see each other only a handful of times a year. But Diana made a point of coming home on time every day to cook dinner from scratch. If she had to work late, she'd let me know. As a wife, she performed her duties flawlessly. I had gently suggested to her once that she didn't need to put on such a show for the public. It's not like that, Diana said, looking up at me with a serious expression. A marriage requires respect and effort. This isn't a show for anyone. It's what I believe I should do as your wife. I was a little taken aback and didn't argue further. After that day, I stopped avoiding the place we called home. I even started to feel a bit of warmth in our household. Tonight was no different. With only a single warm lamp illuminating the living room, Diana was lounging on the rug in a silk slip. The nightgown was short, but she seemed completely unconcerned, her perfect figure on full display as her fingers flew across the keyboard. She was a world away from the impeccably dressed, all-business CEO she was during the day. HNNGH. One look at my husband, and my inspiration is overflowing. What did you just say? I froze, my hand still on my shirt, and turned stiffly to face her. I thought I'd heard her speak, but her lips hadn't moved. Is something wrong? Diana shot me a quizzical look, closing her laptop and getting to her feet. Her face was a perfect mask of indifference. I made those sticky barbecue wings you like, but don't overdo it tonight. Her words were as formal as ever. I gave a stiff nod, but the voice in my head refused to fade. Asterisk hubby, tell me I did a good job. Wait, do you love the wings more, or do you love me more? Oh God, what a terrible question. Don't you dare answer that. Asterisk I looked back at Diana, whose expression remained perfectly neutral. Well, I could now say with absolute certainty that I could read minds. Specifically, I could hear Diana's innermost thoughts. Dinner was an incredibly loud affair, at least inside my head. It turned out that deep down, Diana was an absolute chatterbox. It was bizarrely jarring to reconcile this inner monologue with the cool, elegant woman whose face constantly graced the covers of magazines as New York's Ice Queen. I wondered if, during a failed business negotiation, she was mentally tearing the other person apart while maintaining her perfect poker face. The contrast was, I had to admit, kind of adorable. At that thought, I couldn't stop a small laugh from escaping. Asterisk wow, my husband is so handsome when he smiles. I want to kiss him. Asterisk I choked, a breath catching in my throat. I stared in disbelief as Diana slid a glass of water toward me. I quickly took a few gulps, trying to calm the storm raging inside me. I could feel my face growing hot. This couldn't be real. It had to be some kind of auditory hallucination. The Diana Sterling, the woman pursued by half the eligible bachelors in Manhattan, would never think something like that. Asterisk did he notice I was blushing? Probably not, but still, I should write a bonus chapter tonight. Picture it, a fancy dinner, business talk, and clinking glasses above the table, while underneath, I'm secretly teasing him and he has to pretend like nothing's happening. Hee hee. Asterisk what in the world? Asterisk see? Just being near my husband gives me so much inspiration. Hee hee. Okay, let's keep going. Asterisk I desperately wanted to clap my hands over my ears. My mouth was completely dry, and the food felt like sawdust. Diana, however, acted as if nothing was amiss, as if she weren't the one with this wild internal monologue. She kept eating, and her thoughts kept flowing. I had to find an excuse to get out of there. If I stayed any longer, my entire perception of Diana as an untouchable ice queen would shatter completely. Just as I was about to, Diana spoke up. You've barely touched your food. Is something bothering you, Frank? I looked at her, the words dying on my lips. I mean, did this count as something bothering me? I mumbled a non-committal answer, feeling incredibly guilty. Asterisk excellent. He's being evasive. My readers are in for a treat tonight. I'm going to write something extra spicy, Asterisk, I didn't dare to contemplate what extra spicy might entail. I quickly excused myself and shut my bedroom door, plunging the world into silence. But my heart was still pounding in my chest. Same as always, please don't mention that I started my own law firm. I reminded Diana again before we got out of the car. She retrieved the gifts from the trunk, linked her arm through mine, and nodded obediently. I know, Mr. Big Shot Lawyer, she teased. But her inner voice was a different story. Asterisk, I should have demanded a kiss as payment for my silence. Asterisk, I kept my expression neutral as I put my arm around her slim waist, the fabric of her dress doing little to hide the warmth of her skin. Over the past few days, I'd grown somewhat accustomed to Diana's secret eccentricities. Diana, darling, just having you here is a gift enough. You didn't have to bring all this, my mother gushed, her smile so wide it crinkled the corners of her eyes. Yes, come in, dear, my father added, taking the gifts from Diana with a sycophantic grin. I was unceremoniously shoved aside. These were my parents, the emotional and financial vampires of the Carter family. As the darling of New York's elite, Diana's status as their daughter-in-law gave them endless bragging rights. I couldn't help but feel it was unfair to her. Having parents like mine must have been a tremendous burden. It would be a lie to say I felt nothing, and an even bigger lie to say I wasn't disappointed in them. Frank picked these out for you himself, a voice said. A slender, pale hand slipped through my arm, pulling me firmly to the front. The soft pressure against my arm sent a pleasant tingle through me. She really was completely unguarded around me. I glanced at her, surprised that she seemed to understand my subtle moods better than my own parents ever had. Mom, Dad, Frank spent a long time choosing them, Diana said, her fingers lacing through mine as she leaned against my side. Oh, did he now? Haha. Well, let's not stand here. Come in for dinner. I lowered my gaze and gave a non-committal grunt. Diana was right. I had spent a long time picking out those gifts. There was a time I would have craved a word of praise from them, but I was past that now. They didn't deserve it, and it wasn't worth the effort. Diana, dear, I hope Frank isn't too much trouble at home. Look at him, always with that long face, my mother said, piling food onto Diana's plate. I knew she avoided heavy carbs at night because they upset her stomach. Yet, she accepted everything with a polite smile, never refusing. Frank is wonderful at home. He's never any trouble at all. Diana handled their questions with practiced ease, a perfect diplomat. She played the role of the devoted wife flawlessly, none of her usual commanding CEO presence in sight. Frank, are you daydreaming? Did you forget everything I just told you? My mother snapped. I snapped out of my thoughts, recalling my mother's earlier instructions. Just then, Diana's phone rang, and she excused herself from the table. What is wrong with you? My mother hissed, her voice sharp. The sweet, friendly demeanor she'd shown Diana had vanished. Can't you make my life easy for once? Frank, you know how important this project is, my father added with a sigh. Don't be difficult. You need to convince Diana to give that project to us. My expression turned to ice. I will not influence Diana's decision, I said flatly. She was my wife, not their pawn. My mother shot me a venomous glare. Then you'd better find a way. I don't care how, just get it done. Before I could voice my refusal, she shoved a piece of shrimp into my mouth. You'd better think very carefully about what you say next, she warned. They were about to press the issue further, but my vision was already starting to blur. The next thing I knew, I was waking up to the sound of Diana's raised voice. Frank, she was arguing with my parents. Mom, don't you know he's allergic to shellfish? Diana's voice was dangerously low. Of course we know. He must have eaten it by accident, my mother stammered, her explanation rushed and nervous. We're his parents. How could we not know that? A bitter, sarcastic smile touched my lips. In that moment, any lingering hope I had for my parents died. I had to stay in the hospital for 2 weeks of observation, and during that time, Diana moved her entire office into my private room. I was starting to feel like my condition was getting worse, not better. Asterisk, seeing my husband looking so vulnerable like this, I could crank out 10,000 words a day. A hospital room special is definitely in order. Hee. This fragile, injured version of him is just so irresistible. Asterisk, I stared at my laptop screen, but my mind was a million miles away. This wasn't the first time I'd heard her inner monologue ramble on like this. Writing? Inspiration? Bonus chapters? Readers? Could it be that Diana had a secret writing hobby? Following the breadcrumbs of her rich inner world, I managed to find her online profile. She was a pretty big deal on that writing platform, but that was impossible. She was the ice queen of Manhattan's high society. How could she be a popular romance author? The idea was completely absurd. Then again, the world is a strange place, and it didn't take long for me to accept it. With a trembling hand, I clicked on her most popular story. The first chapter was titled, The Merger. The plot was about a man who, forced by his family, strategically marries a powerful CEO, and then proceeds to seduce her. What followed was a series of very, very descriptive scenes. My face burning, I slammed my phone shut. Dear God, who on earth started the rumor that Diana Sterling was frigid? I wanted to find them and set them straight. Stripping away the steamy parts, I could see that the story was clearly based on our life together. She took our most mundane, everyday moments and twisted them into something else entirely. The study, the dining room, a late-night encounter in the hallway. The most blush-inducing scene involved a dinner party where, as the staff served the meal, the female lead was busy under the table. I shut the phone off again, my heart hammering against my ribs. I had no idea who her readers pictured as the heroine of the story, but I knew, with absolute certainty, that the character was based on the unattainable goddess of New York's elite, the one and only Diana Sterling. A woman like that, doing those things with me. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart, and glanced over at Diana on the couch. She was staring intently at her laptop, fingers flying across the keys. In my ears, I could hear not only the clacking of the keyboard, but also the wildly inappropriate scenes she was crafting in her head. She was wearing a simple white cardigan over a form-fitting dress, her long, dark hair tucked behind one ear, the picture of casual, Yonglin elegance. Her long, perfectly shaped legs, which were crossed at the ankle, bounced slightly in time with her thoughts. To think that this woman, admired and desired by so many, was secretly fantasizing about me. I finally managed to get my breathing under control and let out a long sigh. I couldn't hold it in any longer. Diana, is there something you're hiding from me? Her expression froze. She looked down for a long moment before finally meeting my eyes. Her lips pressed into a thin line. You found out. Was this it? Was she about to confess everything? My heart leaped into my throat. Then she said, I'm sorry. Your parents stopped by earlier, but you were sleeping, so I told them to leave. I was speechless. Right. It was clear she had no intention of telling me. It was her private life, after all. I decided to keep pretending I knew nothing. For the next few days, my parents, apparently feeling guilty, started bringing me meals at the hospital every day. I knew their real target was Diana. Their sudden attentiveness didn't touch me in the slightest. In fact, it repulsed me. Diana, you must be exhausted. Come, sit and eat, my mother said, laying out the containers on the small table. It was a lavish spread, but there wasn't a single thing on the menu for me. My diet was restricted to bland soups and broths. My mother clearly hadn't considered this. Her face flushed with embarrassment, and when she thought no one was looking, she shot me a glare. Just eat what you can. Come on. Diana didn't say a word, but she gently placed her hand over mine, stopping me from picking up my fork. Her inner monologue, however, was in full swing. Asterisk, what is all this greasy food? He'll never be able to digest this. I can't let him eat this stuff. No, I have to take matters into my own hands. Asterisk, I shifted slightly to get a better look at her. She was helping my parents serve the food, but her brow was furrowed and her lips were pressed into a thin, unhappy line. Asterisk, is this seriously what they brought for their sick son? There isn't a single thing here that he actually likes. Asterisk, a strange feeling washed over me. Under the table, the screen of my phone lit up. It was a note Diana had discreetly passed to me. The message read, don't eat any of it. I've already sent someone to get you proper food. The empty space in my heart, the one carved out by years of parental neglect, suddenly felt full. My expression remained cold, but inside, I was overwhelmed by a profound warmth. During the meal, my parents tried several times to bring up the real reason for their visit, but Diana cut them off each time. We can discuss business after Frank has fully recovered, she stated firmly. Her tone left no room for argument, and they reluctantly dropped the subject, clearly afraid of upsetting her. The next day, Diana had the small storage closet in my VIP suite converted into a makeshift kitchen. Anyone would think I was planning on moving in permanently. Asterisk, see, he needs my cooking. The way to a man's heart is through his stomach, after all. Asterisk, Diana kept a close watch on me. I had to get her permission just to walk a few laps down the hall. People who knew what happened understood I just had an allergic reaction. Anyone else would have thought I was on death's door. Sorry folks, my wife's just a little overprotective. I've always been a bit of a busybody, so when I saw a crowd gathered in the hallway, I naturally pushed my way through. In the center of the commotion were two people I knew all too well. "Sarah?" I called out, testing the waters. A man had her by the arm, his grip tight and bruising. Her hair was a mess, and despite the summer heat, she was covered from neck to wrist in long sleeves. The moment she saw me, her eyes flickered away and she ducked her head. I knew that face all too well, but not before I caught a glimpse of the dark bruises on her cheek. "All right, show's over, everyone," the man, Liam, said, waving the crowd away. He turned to me, his face a mask of sycophantic concern. "Frank, my man, you're not feeling well." I ignored him. "Sarah, what happened to you?" I demanded. She flinched, her eyes wide with fear. "It's nothing. I'm fine. My gut told me otherwise." Liam cut in smoothly. "Your cousin had a little accident today. I'm just taking her to get checked out. No need for you to worry." I pulled Sarah out of his reach. As she stumbled, her collar shifted, revealing the distinct shape of fingerprints bruised into the skin of her neck. My gaze turned to ice. Domestic abuse is a crime, Liam. I'd never liked the guy, but he had a sterling reputation in our social circles. He was known for being easygoing, a perfect gentleman. Everyone knew how well he treated Sarah. Her eyes were filled with panic as she yanked her collar up to her chin. "So I was right, Frank," Liam said, his voice dropping. "I'd advise you to mind your own business." He was still smiling, but his eyes were cold and predatory as they fixed on me. He reached out and yanked Sarah back to his side. It was a clear threat. "You touch her again, I dare you," I snarled, taking a step forward. "You bastard. Get out of my way." A fist flew toward my face. I was about to block and counter, but someone else was faster. "If you have a death wish, you should just say so," a cool voice interjected. Diana swept Liam's legs out from under him and followed up with a sharp punch to his jaw. I'd forgotten she had an 8th-degree black belt in judo. Liam scrambled to his feet, his face already turning purple, and dragged Sarah away as he fled. I started to go after them, but Sarah looked back at me and shook her head, her eyes pleading. I stopped in my tracks. Oh no, my husband almost got hurt. I should have been here sooner to protect him. Ouch. My hand really hurts now. I snapped back to the present and looked at Diana with concern. "Is your hand okay?" "I'm fine," she said, her face impassive. No, it's not fine. It hurts. I need my husband to kiss it and make it better. I was at a loss for words. She was unbelievably stubborn. Ahem. I awkwardly took her hand in mine. I know something that might help with the pain. On some strange impulse, I turned her hand over, palm up, and gently blew on her knuckles. There, all better. It was the least I could do since she'd just saved my skin. I figured I could indulge her this one time. I looked up and met her gaze. Her eyes were filled with such raw, undisguised affection that for a moment, time seemed to stop. "Excuse me, please don't block the hallway," a nurse said, breaking the spell. I quickly dropped her hand. "Well, glad you're okay. I've got to go." Behind me, I could hear Diana's internal shriek of pure joy, loud enough to burst my eardrums. I went back to my room, my mind on Liam. There's no such thing as a perfect person, unless that perfection is a carefully constructed facade. Back in my room, I started digging into Liam's background. Everything that came up painted a picture of a perfect man. To the outside world, Sarah was the luckiest woman alive to have married him. "Wear a mask long enough," I muttered to myself, "and you forget the face beneath." Before my investigation could turn up anything concrete, Sarah showed up at my hospital room. She fell to her knees with a sickening crack. "Please, Frank, you have to help me. I want a divorce." Tears streamed down her face. When she grabbed my arm, I saw that her own wrists were covered in dark, ugly bruises in the shape of a belt buckle. There were also small, circular burns that looked like they'd been made by a cigarette. A wave of cold fury washed over me. It wasn't that she hadn't wanted to leave, she had been too afraid. No one would have believed her. Everyone thought Liam was a saint. He hit you a few times, so what? Is it really worth making a public spectacle of yourselves? He's such a good-tempered man. You must have done something to provoke him. You were lucky to land a man like that. You should be more grateful. If you divorce him, who else is going to want you? That last one was my mother, and everyone else in the room nodded in agreement. Sarah was trembling, her head bowed low. "All of you shut your mouths," I warned, but it was no use. Liam took her away. She didn't fight as he pulled her to her feet. I opened my mouth to protest, but she looked at me and gave a tiny, almost imperceptible shake of her head. Her eyes were filled with a profound, desolate sadness. A deep, burning rage at the injustice of it all consumed me. The chorus of accusations and victim-blaming continued from the hallway. "Diana, come get me," I said into my phone. I wasn't going to sit by and do nothing. I stormed out of my room and spotted Sarah immediately, a small, defeated figure in the center of the crowd. "I'll help you," I promised her. The moment we were in Diana's car, my anger was still simmering. Diana floored it, leaving the gawking crowd in our dust. "I told you I'd help you get a divorce," I said to Sarah, my voice firm. I looked at her, my tone unwavering. She was already sobbing, unable to speak. Back at our apartment, we got Sarah settled in one of the guest rooms, and she fell asleep almost immediately. "Thank you for coming to get us," I said to Diana. I was truly grateful. She'd been dragged into enough of my family's drama, but she never once complained. "Whatever my husband decides to do, I'll support him 100%. That night, Sarah slept in Diana's room, which meant Diana was sleeping in my bed. After years of a marriage in name only, this was the first time we had ever shared a bedroom. Naturally, I made a makeshift bed for myself on the floor. Hee, the whole room smells like him. In the enclosed space of the bedroom, Diana's subtle, woodsy perfume seemed to be magnified, filling the air. It made my heart race, and any sleepiness I might have felt vanished completely. My mind drifted back to the events of the day. "Diana," I began, then paused. "Do you think I'm doing the right thing?" For once, her inner monologue was silent. She had always been surprisingly attuned to my moods. "This isn't about right or wrong," she said, her voice low and steady. She was propped up on her elbows, looking down at me from the bed. Maybe it was her CEO training, but her voice had a calming, authoritative quality that instantly put me at ease. "As a lawyer, this is something you have to do. And as Frank Carter, your courage has always been an inspiration to me." I closed my eyes, her voice washing over me like a cool, clear stream. "If this is something you feel you have to do, then do it. Don't be afraid. I'll be right here with you." My body relaxed completely, the tension draining out of me. The scent of her perfume was soothing, and I felt myself drifting off. "Diana," I murmured, my voice thick with sleep. "I'm here," she whispered back. I slept soundly that night, feeling safe and warm for the first time in a long time. As expected, my mother showed up the next morning. "I'll take Sarah for a walk in the garden," Diana said, leaning down so she was at my eye level. She never bothered with modesty around me. The collar of her blouse gaped open slightly, and I felt my ears burn as I quickly averted my gaze. She gave my back a reassuring pat, the way one might soothe a child. "Don't worry," she said. "I'll be right outside." I nodded. My mother's sharp gaze followed Diana until she was out of sight, then it snapped back to me. "You're still pursuing this lawyer nonsense, Frank? You used to be such an obedient boy." Her voice was laced with disappointment. "What's so great about being a lawyer? All you do is deal with messy divorces all day, stirring up trouble in other people's marriages, associating with all sorts of unsavory characters." I shrugged, my expression bored. "So what would you have me be instead?" "You should be at home, starting a family. Let Diana be the breadwinner." "You mean, I should be like you, Mom?" I asked, my voice devoid of emotion. For a moment, she was speechless. That was the dynamic my parents had settled into over the years. But my mother had once been a fashion designer. Her dream was to have her own label. I still had some of her old sketchbooks hidden away. I wondered how many years of that life it had taken to grind away all her sharp edges. I didn't want that for myself. I would never let myself become that. "I won't become you," I said, my voice firm. I didn't even realize my mother had left until Diana was wrapping her arms around me. I said what I had to say. I mumbled into her shoulder. "You were very brave," she said softly. He looks so cute when he's feeling wronged. I just want to shower him with love." The heavy feeling in my chest evaporated. Her thoughts sent ripples through me, turning my calm, still heart into a bubbling spring. I hugged her back tightly, burying my face in the crook of her neck and inhaling her clean, fresh scent. My grip tightened. She was mine. Sarah's lawsuit proceeded smoothly. She had meticulously kept records of every hospital visit, and the police officially opened an investigation. Many people found it hard to believe. How could someone so perfect be an abuser? But there's no such thing as a perfect person. With the evidence we had, there was no way Liam could win. I had to stay late at the office to organize the case files, so I told Diana not to wait up for me. As I walked through the courtyard of our apartment building, I spotted a shadowy figure lurking in the bushes. It was Liam. He'd been waiting for me. "Damn it, Carter. I've been waiting forever," he snarled, spitting on the ground. His eyes were filled with a murderous rage. "You little bastard. You ruined me." A blur of motion shot past me. The next thing I knew, Liam was on the ground with Diana's foot on his chest. "A little cheap booze makes you brave, huh?" she spat. "You lay a hand on my husband, and I'll make you wish you were never born." I couldn't help but let out a snort of laughter. Diana seemed surprised by her own outburst. She turned to me, her expression a little stiff. "I've already called the police," she said primly. Asterisk stupid mouth. Why did I say that? Asterisk I tried to suppress my smile and nodded vigorously. In the end, since I wasn't actually harmed, the police let Liam go with a warning. Diana was furious. By the time he causes substantial harm, it'll be too late. If the police hadn't been there, I have no doubt she would have kicked him a few more times for good measure. At the final hearing, Liam showed up with a face full of bruises. Sarah won. After every victory, the whole firm goes out to celebrate. There's always a lot of drinking, but I've always been able to hold my liquor. That night, Diana helped me into the bedroom, her movements slow and deliberate. Asterisk is he drunk or not? He looks pretty drunk. Asterisk I chuckled to myself. I was perfectly steady on my feet, just a little tired of talking. I took 2 deliberate steps, then pretended to stumble, falling right into her arms. "I can still drink," I mumbled. "You're drunk," she said, her voice filled with unconcealed delight as she supported my weight. "Am not," I slurred. "I was drunk, and I was faking it." My husband is drunk, Frank, honey. "Do you know who I am?" she cooed, her soft voice sending a shiver down my spine. I didn't answer, just buried my face in her neck, inhaling her scent. "I'm not drunk," I insisted. Of course you're not." She wrapped her arms around my neck, and her next words were lost as her lips met mine. It was our first real kiss in all our years of marriage. Her lips were soft and full, the kind that made you want to be both gentle and rough at the same time. But her kiss was slow and tender, almost reverent. It was utterly intoxicating. After a long, lingering kiss, she tucked me into bed and left the room. The next morning, she was sitting at the breakfast table, looking as poised and unflappable as ever. Her inner world, however, was in chaos. Asterisk he probably doesn't remember, right? Oh God, what if he does? He'll think I'm a total creep. He'll want a divorce. Asterisk I opened my mouth to say something, but her internal panic was too overwhelming to interrupt. I slid into the chair next to her and asked, as casually as I could, "I was pretty out of it last night. I didn't do anything too embarrassing, did I?" Diana choked on her coffee, turning away as she devolved into a fit of coughing. The tips of her ears, peeking out from under her hair, were bright red. "No," she managed to get out. "You were very quiet." I had to bite back a smile. After the incident with Liam, the secret of my law firm was out. "Frank Carter, your actions have brought shame upon this family," my father roared, slamming his hand on his desk. "Is this how you repay me for everything I've given you?" He used his influence to have my firm shut down. Overnight, I became a laughingstock in our social circle. My father issued an ultimatum. If I ever practiced law again, he would disown me. The feeling was mutual, so I didn't pay his threats much mind. That is, until I was at a gala and overheard a group of people placing bets on how long it would take for Diana to divorce me. The Carters are about to cut him off completely. He's useless to Diana Sterling now. He was never good enough for her in the first place. A chill went down my spine. I could lose everything else, but I couldn't lose Diana. She was my wife, and she would only ever be mine. Across the ballroom, Diana stood at the center of an admiring crowd, the queen of the evening. They were right. In terms of wealth and influence, I was nothing compared to her. I knew there were plenty of wealthy suitors just waiting for me to fail so they could make their move. After all, Diana was flawlessly beautiful. A true prize. "Frank, my darling husband." Her voice in my head snapped me out of my thoughts. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet my husband, Frank Carter," Diana announced, gliding to my side and taking my arm. "He's a brilliant lawyer and has just opened his own firm. If any of you ever need legal counsel, he's the best there is." As she spoke, her assistant began handing out my business cards. All of their companies had in-house legal teams. Diana knew that. So what was this all about? Asterisk I'm showing my support. Waving the flag for Team Frank. Asterisk I stared at the confident curve of her lips, my heart hammering in my chest. And yet, the more she did, the more a strange, unfamiliar feeling of inadequacy began to creep in. I'd started my own company right out of school, and it had taken 2 years just to get it off the ground. Progress was slow. I couldn't blame them for looking down on me. Now my firm was shut down, and my father had people watching my every move. I had degrees in both law and finance, but finance had never been my strong suit. I was terrified of failure. I started working late every night, searching for a major project that could serve as a launchpad for my company. The potential client was notoriously difficult, and I was running myself ragged trying to win him over. Asterisk my poor husband is working himself to death. My heart aches for him. Asterisk to my surprise, when I got home, Diana was still awake. You should eat something before you go to bed, she said. I put down my briefcase and didn't argue. Asterisk, he's gotten so thin. I'll make him a huge, nutritious breakfast tomorrow to make up for it. Asterisk, she had to be seeing me through some kind of love-colored filter. The next morning, Diana was already gone when I woke up. My alarm hadn't gone off. I grabbed my bag and rushed to the office. Boss, my assistant said, we lost the project. The news hit me like a ton of bricks. But we were so close to a deal. Who was it? It was Carter Sr., he said. My father. A moment later, my phone rang. It was him. Consider this your first lesson in the real world, son, he began. Enough, I cut him off. You wanted this project from the beginning, didn't you? I said, my hand clenching into a fist around my briefcase strap. You let me do all the hard work, and then you swooped in at the last minute to steal it. Nonsense. All's fair in love and business. You should have been more careful, he blustered, his voice thick with defensive anger. I hung up. I threw my briefcase onto my desk, a poor substitute for venting my rage. The contents spilled out across the desk. On a strange impulse, I picked up the project proposal. It was covered in notes and annotations, written in a sharp, elegant hand that I recognized immediately. Tucked between the pages was a small, crisp business card. It read, Private Tutoring. Rates negotiable. Below it was a phone number. I dialed. Hello, Professor Sterling? I'm calling to inquire about your tutoring fees. As for my fee, I continued, I was thinking we could arrange a payment plan similar to the one we had the other night. Would that be acceptable, Professor? The line went dead. I burst out laughing, the frustration and anger of the morning melting away. A moment later, my phone buzzed with a new iMessage. It was from Diana. It contained a single word, deal. Diana turned out to be an excellent tutor, and with her help, I started to find my footing. Are you reading a law textbook? I asked one evening, looking up from a mountain of paperwork to rub my aching neck. She was leaning against the bookshelf, a heavy legal tome in her hands. Asterisk, this is so complicated. How did he ever learn all this? Asterisk, I had to suppress a smile. I'd started to think she was good at everything. And here I thought you were invincible. I teased, standing up to stretch. You've always treated me like some kind of business-savvy robot, she said, rubbing her temples with a small smile. If you ask me, the one who's truly invincible is the man who can master the law. Her intense gaze made me blush, and I quickly looked back down at my work. Asterisk, why aren't any of these classic romance novel lines working on him? When am I finally going to get him into bed? Asterisk behind me. I heard the rustle of a book's pages turning. What kind of CEO hides a romance novel inside a law textbook? With Diana's help, the company was back on track and doing better than ever. My parents invited me over for dinner, a rare occurrence. They specifically told me not to bring Diana. Let's have a nice family dinner, just the three of us, my mother said, gesturing for me to sit. I had no appetite, but I was morbidly curious to see what they were planning now. It was almost comical, but I played along. My mother made some stilted small talk, asking how I'd been. Growing up, they had both been so busy with work that a family dinner like this was an unheard of luxury. I paused, my fork halfway to my mouth, and looked my father straight in the eye. Just say what you came to say. There's no need to beat around the bush. I want you to sign the company over to me, he said. I didn't get angry. I laughed. A cold, humorless sound. I knew it. My mocking gaze seemed to infuriate him. You're my son. What's yours is mine. I'd known they were shameless, but I'd never realized the true depths of their incompetence. Enough, I said, my voice raw. I stood up, ignoring their indignant glares. I am so disappointed in you. If you walk out that door, you are no longer my son, he bellowed. I paused for a fraction of a second. That was a threat? It sounded like a gift. I walked straight out the door without looking back. Diana's car was parked right where I'd left it. She had been waiting for me the whole time. The final, ugly break with my family, the sheer awfulness of my parents, it all filled me with a deep sense of shame. I was completely drained. Suddenly, I was enveloped in a cool, comforting embrace. Diana held me tightly, her hand rubbing soothing circles on my back. She didn't need to read my mind to know how I was feeling. I buried my face in her neck and took a deep, shuddering breath. She had a magical ability to calm my frayed nerves. It's okay, she murmured. Asterisk excellent. Even I've never made him this upset. I'm adding this to their tab. Asterisk a small laugh escaped me. Let's go home, okay, she said, tilting my chin up so I was looking at her. Even now, when I felt like I had nothing, she looked at me like I was the most precious thing in the world. I was truly loved by her. Diana drove slowly, and the chaos in my mind began to settle. I yawned and leaned my head against the seat. Diana, I murmured. I'm here. I don't have a family anymore. I waited for a reply, but none came. I must have fallen asleep. When I woke up, I was in my own bed. It was late, and I was about to roll over and go back to sleep. That's when I noticed a gift box sitting just inside my bedroom door. I paused, then walked over to it. It had to be for me, and I had a pretty good idea who it was from. Tucked into the ribbon on the box was a small card. It read, "For Frank Carter, who is and always will be worthy of love." Underneath, it was signed, "From your forever wife." My heart skipped a beat. I carefully untied the ribbon and lifted the lid. On top was a certificate of achievement, made out to Frank Carter, Esquire. I remembered it well. It was from a mock trial competition in college. After I won, it had shown up in my mailbox, sent anonymously. So it had been her. Underneath the certificate was a scrapbook. Every page had a photograph of me from some academic or professional achievement. The photos were all taken from a distance, but the subject was always in perfect focus. The corners of the photos were worn, and on the back of each one, she had written a small note. It turned out that in all those moments when I had desperately wanted someone to be proud of me, there had been one person in the crowd whose eyes were only for me. I carefully put everything back in the box. A sudden, overwhelming urge came over me. I had to see her. Right now. I threw open my bedroom door and found her standing right there, as if she'd been waiting. Before she could finish, I closed the distance between us. I pulled her into a fierce hug, holding her as tightly as I could. "Diana," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "Diana, Diana, I'm here," she answered, her voice soft and patient. I buried my face in her shoulder. "I like you so much, Diana," I confessed. Her reply was simple. "I love you, Frank." In that moment, the constant chatter in my head went silent. I realized I couldn't hear her thoughts anymore. The next day, my father held a press conference to publicly disown me. He also sent me a text. "Let's see how long you last without me." It was true that a few of my clients, who had only been using me to get to my father, dropped me. The gossip columns had a field day, saying I'd thrown away my golden ticket for nothing. They all said I would be nothing without my father's name. They seemed to have forgotten one small detail. I was Diana Sterling's husband. Of course, I had never wanted to rely on that connection anyway. After the dust settled, my business was not only stable, it was thriving. "So," Diana said one evening, a sly look in her eye, "your schedule has freed up a bit, has it?" She reached for me, but I held up a hand to stop her. "Not yet." It was day 186 of the silence in my head. "I have writer's block," Diana announced with a dramatic sigh. "Not my problem," I said, turning a page in my book. "But my readers are sending me death threats. They're demanding a new chapter. I'm scared, Frank." Before I could respond, she had launched herself into my arms. My law firm was back in business. After another successful case and another celebratory dinner, Diana was helping me to the bedroom. "Frank," she whispered, "are you drunk?" I slurred. "I can still drink some more." "Hee hee, you're drunk," she declared happily. "Fine. I guess I could spoil her, just this once."